Famous billionaire investor and Berkshire Hathaway vice chairman Charlie Munger believes that the first $100,000 is the hardest to accumulate. But it isn't just him. Many people who have grown their wealth think the same way, and they also believe the same thing when it comes to reaching the $1 million mark. Once you reach $100,000, the next one usually follows quickly, and the next thing you know, you already have $200,000, $300,000, and $400,000. And once you reach that $1 million mark, the next one is just around the corner and takes a fraction of the time as the first. For those of us whose wealth is growing slower than we would like, this is reassuring. But why exactly does it become easier? Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Finance Guardian channel. This video will explain why it takes a long time to reach the $100,000 mark and offer some advice for speeding up this process so you become wealthy years sooner. Subscribe to our channel, click the bell beside it, and let's get started. The first $100,000 is the most challenging. This is particularly true if you just graduated from college and have little money to start with and a fair amount of debt. The only assets you have are your skill, education, and perhaps your job. It may seem daunting to achieve $100,000 in savings and investing, but you can get there with some discipline, persistence, and consistency. According to Charlie Munger, the most challenging part of building wealth is accumulating the first $100,000 without seed money. After that, the next big challenge is making your first million. It requires an individual to underspend his income consistently. He says that getting wealthy is like rolling a snowball because it helps to begin at the top of a long hill, start early, and keep rolling that snowball for a very long time. Here's another version of the same quote credited to Munger. The first $100,000 is a bit, but you gotta do it. I don't care what you have to do. If it means walking everywhere and not eating anything that wasn't purchased with a coupon, find a way to get your hands on $100,000. After that, you can ease off the gas a little bit. Now, what are the reasons why hitting the first $100,000 is the hardest? The first reason is that it requires you to actually start investing. It is always the first step that is the hardest. No matter what you're doing in life, starting is always the most difficult and the most important thing you can do. After all, nothing can be completed without starting. Whether it's learning a new skill, exercising, or anything else you can think of, you must start to achieve any goal, and the same goes for investing. $100,000 may seem like a mountain, but it is crucial to take the first step. It is impossible to climb a mountain without taking the first step, the second, the third, and so on. It requires belief. The moment you believe you can accomplish something, it suddenly becomes possible. As Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Things move along as soon as you start building and rolling a snowball. Getting started is the key, as is believing that it is possible. Make a business plan that includes how much you need to save and invest, then get to work. Maya Angelou once said, "Nothing works unless you do, so get out there and get busy." The second reason is the first $100,000 is the most difficult is that it calls for a tremendous amount of change. While most people aren't fond of change, you'll be stuck with what you've always had if you don't embrace it. As long as you do what you have always done, you will have what you'll always have had. In the end, if you don't change your ways, you'll remain broke forever. Therefore, the question is, what are you seeking more of? Is it comfort in the familiar or your first $100,000? If you really want that $100,000, you're gonna have to want it so badly that you'd be willing to uproot your life and change everything you are used to. Despite the comfort of the familiar, this comfort is often what's holding you back. Besides, change is the only constant in life, so don't fight it. Instead, embrace it. Life will have to change drastically for you to accomplish this. You'll need to stop spending 100% of your income and start saving and investing 50% or more of it. As with many people, you will need to start fawning over stocks like they do over material possessions. It means looking at the stock market as the best store and stocks as the best merchandise in the world. Spending money on investing will replace spending money on consumer goods, and researching stocks will replace researching consumer goods. The third reason is that compounding will not kick in until that first $100,000 is reached. It's the same with anything else in life. The first few steps are always the most difficult, and investing is no different. Albert Einstein once described compound interest as the eighth wonder of the world. Compounding is powerful, but it takes quite a bit of capital for it to have any significant impact. After all, it would take more than 30 years for $5,000 to compound at a market average annual rate to turn into $100,000. The first $100,000 requires heavy lifting on your part. You have to save the first $100,000 mainly before compounding will start to work its magic. Having to save will make you reflect on your lifestyle, what you're buying, and how you're prioritizing things. Compounding doesn't provide much benefit to someone with a small amount of capital, so it's up to you to save as much as you can and invest the savings intelligently and as often as possible. Once you have reached $100,000, you can start taking it easy. Once you hit the first 100K, Charlie Munger advised that you can ease off the accelerator. That's because compounding can begin to kick in and work its magic. As if by magic, compounding $100,000 at a market average of 10% per year for 20 years results in almost $675,000. In other words, you could start young, get to 100K, then live life on cruise control. This is how important it is for you to make that first $100,000. Your compounding snowball requires you first to accumulate the snow, or the capital, and then put in the effort to pile everything up, shape it into something, and start rolling it down the hill. But the bigger the snowball gets and the faster it starts to roll, the less effort you must exert to keep it going. There comes a time when you don't need to push at all. It becomes this monstrous thing that grows and rolls faster on its own at a rate you couldn't accomplish alone. There are some ways to speed up the process if you're still trying to reach the $100,000 milestone. Most of these funds will come from your contributions, so you must increase your savings rate. This will be your best option for accelerating the process. Increasing your income will allow you to save more money regularly. You can either do this with another job on the weekends or by working a couple of nights every week where that extra income is deposited directly into savings. Another option is to start a side business that could generate some extra income. Avoid spending too much money on unnecessary items. Is $100 really worth it for dinner out? Or would you rather reserve it for some special occasion and save more money instead? Watching pennies like this for a while will only be temporary until you reach your goal and can ease up just a little bit. Avoid large car payments for vehicles that are simply unnecessary, as these expenses are a common reason why people never reach $100,000, let alone $1 million. Once you are familiar with the saving and investing process, it will be easier for you to carry on as you have been. After you have accumulated a substantial amount of money, you'll be able to use to find ways to earn extra income and save that money. You'll also be accustomed to being more deliberate with your purchases and thinking about whether they are necessary or if it would be more rewarding to put them into savings. Aside from that, you will learn to feel comfortable taking risks and taking full advantage of different market cycles as you invest. And that is all the time that we have today, folks. We hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button. If you're new around here, subscribe to our channel to remain updated about all of our future videos. We'll see you next time.